Our decision is due on May 10th. So, but you can submit written comments to us for the next 10 days. So that deadline is Monday, April 23rd. You can email those or you can mail those. Just so you can send us additional written comments for after tonight. Our decision, we will find for or against the cooperative boundary plan May 10th. So you'll be able to read that decision after that date. We are going to start our concluding comments. We will start with Kekoskee and Williamstown.
Okay. All right. Something that I haven't said already. All right.
Thank you once again, and thank you to everybody who spoke. We'll be brief. There were plenty of really good comments, and we just want to cover a few topics that we heard come up during the scope of the comments. So the first thing that I want to address, these are really just legal issues. I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but since they came up, I want to address them each briefly. First was, there was a comment or question about a term that I used, which was attachment ordinance. And I think there was a comment or a question to the effect of, what is that, or that's not a statutory mechanism. I just want to clarify what I was referring to when I used the term, because I used it as shorthand. In 660307, the statute talks about cooperative plans addressing boundary changes, paraphrasing. And then subsection 10 says, a boundary change under a cooperative plan shall be accomplished by the enactment of an ordinance by the governing body designated to do so in the plan. So when I used the term attachment ordinance, all I meant was we have the boundary change designated in the plan, and we will adopt the ordinance that subsection 10 refers to, accomplishing that change. So that's just to clarify that. The other thing that came up a couple of times was this discussion of is this really a boundary agreement, or is this an incorporation, or is this a consolidation, or should you be treating it as one of those things rather than a boundary agreement? There were also comments that that has happened before, and it has. We've been involved in similar agreements in the past, and I know that the department has as well. I know that because I quickly went on your website and pulled up a copy of a Court of Appeals decision that you have there. This is the Town of Harrison case from a few years back, and that involved a situation that was very similar to what we're dealing with here. In that case, the Town of Harrison actually incorporated a small portion of its territory, if you're familiar with what happened, and then entered into a boundary agreement to attach the remainder of the town, and that went up to the Court of Appeals. And the relevant part of the Court of Appeals decision that I want to just mention, because it gets at this issue, I'm just going to read from the Court of Appeals. It says, our statutes provide multiple methods for altering municipal boundary lines, as well as multiple methods of incorporation. There is nothing absurd about the legislature creating an additional way to accomplish the development of territory from town to incorporated status, in an orderly and uniform manner via agreements between governments. There likewise is nothing absurd about the fact that the legislature might permit intergovernmental cooperation agreements to include major boundary changes without agency approval or public referendum, at least no more absurd than the fact that minor boundary changes may be accomplished without agency approval or referendum, and so on. The point is this: there are statutes for consolidations, there are statutes for incorporations, there are statutes for boundary agreements, and they're not to be viewed as silos where you have to fit yourself into the specific one that applies to you. The Court of Appeals in the Town of Harrison case is saying there's overlap, and you can choose among these overlapping statutes and procedures. That's exactly what happened in the Harrison case, and that's exactly what the Court of Appeals said was okay in that situation. So I did want to refer to that because that's the legal issue that has come up tonight, I think. There were also references to extraterritorial zoning authority. That no longer exists. There was an extraterritorial zoning committee, but it's been disbanded. The city exercises extraterritorial land division review, but not extraterritorial zoning, to clarify that. And the only thing other thing that I would mention is that we do plan to supplement what we had previously filed. Our plan was to wait until tonight to hear the comments, hear what questions you might have before doing that. So within the upcoming 10-day period, we'll submit additional materials according to your checklist. That's all that I have.
Okay, thank you. Mayville?
Thank you. I just want to address a couple comments. First of all, with respect to the provision on the 66030710 that says one of the municipalities will draft an ordinance, that still doesn't mean you can draft an ordinance attaching the entire municipality. It just doesn't mean that at all. The entire statute is a boundary agreement, and that's what's contemplated, but what's contemplated here is the elimination of one municipality through consolidation. As it relates to the Village of Harrison case, I'm sure you're familiar with that, but that involves section 660301, right, not 07. But more importantly, the ordinance that was adopted in that case did not attach the entire town of Harrison to the village. It was a transfer after the incorporation. There was a transfer of a portion of the town, but there remained a town of Harrison. There was not a consolidation of the two. So completely inappropriate and distinguishable. I'm sure the department was involved in that and knows all about it. But for those that might not otherwise know about that, it was a different situation. There was a question raised on the contract for sanitary sewer service. And as I told you, the policy of the city is and has been not to extend sewer beyond the boundaries of the city. There's one exception, and that was an agreement, it is an agreement, that exists today between the city of Mayville, Leroy Sanitary District, and the Village of Kekoskee. That agreement I provided you as exhibit number 4. Now what happened is that Leroy and Kekoskee created a sanitary district or commission that provided sanitary sewer service for the village and a small portion of town Leroy. Several years ago, the state ordered that the wastewater treatment, this is a lift station and a treatment plant, be upgraded. The cost was prohibitive, and so the commission, which is comprised of the village and the town Leroy Sanitary District, they approached the city about the city accepting the sanitary sewage and treating it. They would run ended up being a force main, or at least a force main, down to a lift station in the city and then gravity flow into the treatment plant. And ultimately we entered into that agreement, and that's exhibit number 4. But as an aside, I have to comment on this. I find it interesting that one of the reasons that they need to consolidate these two municipalities is that the village of Kekoskee can't get enough people to run their village board, but every time you need a contract, like a sewer contract or a commission, they can find enough people to get on the village board to approve these contracts, so it's beneficial. But what happened though is, in order to qualify for state and I think federal grants and Clean Water Act monies at low interest rate, the commission had to continue to own the facility here. Okay, so the city doesn't own it. What happened is that the city, they continue to own it, but the city leases it and operates it. And if you look at the lease agreement, which is exhibit number 5 in that I submitted, in particular section 7.8C, it provides that that agreement is not assignable. And so I would submit to you that the proposal here where Kekoskee would assign its interest to this new Village of Williamstown, which would be a member of the commission, is an assignment that's not allowed under that contract. It's not allowed without the permission of the city of Mayville. And I think I've laid that out in some written comments I've submitted, but I would just point you to section 7.8C, and if you look at how this is set up, where the facility is still owned by the commission. The city's leasing it, and then at the end of the lease, which is when the money, the grant money or the low interest funds are paid back, then the city buys it for $1. So those these types of things. But that's how that works. As far as increasing the rates because of this, it's all governed under the contract. The rates are, the treatment rates are the same. There's no change there at all. Has nothing to do with it. But there is an issue regarding assignment. Last thing I just want to comment real quickly is that, you know, there are a lot of comments tonight about, you know, the city's refusal to approve land splits. All right, maybe like 7 of them over 15 or 20 years, and I'm sure those comments were heartfelt and sincere, but the review and in those limited cases, the denial of a land split was based upon extraterritorial plat approval authority and zoning authority. And when that happens, if the city is wrong, the property owner has a right to ask the court to review it. That, to my knowledge, that has never occurred. But to some extent, first of all, I don't think it has anything to do with the plan that was submitted or whether the plan meets the requirements of the statute. I think it's indicative of the nature of this proceeding to protect the borders and prevent annexations as opposed to the requirements of the plan. But even to that extent, those comments are somewhat irrelevant, or made more irrelevant by the adoption of that farmland preservation zoning in 2014. And that's in the book that I submitted to you as well, because under farmland preservation limits the number of land splits that can occur and can't occur. And so the town, by its own actions, has put it, by adoption of that ordinance and the placement of those properties in there, would prevent the type of land splits that were complained of as having been turned down in 2001. Thank you.
All right, we will be here until 7 o'clock, so we'll stand informal until that time. You still have the opportunity to testify if you have not testified already and you would like that. You can just fill out a slip, bring it up, and we would have you testify. But otherwise, we will be here until 7 p.m. and then we will adjourn. Thank you.